Hey guys, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video, we're going to be talking about builds for Hanya. I personally really like this character a lot. Her design is amazing, very convincing reasons why her design is amazing. But anyway, in this build, we're going to be doing something a little different. I'm going to be talking first about TLDR, and I'm going to change up the format for our previous videos. I want to give you the TLDR in front, and that is sharing my build. Do I think it's perfect? The answer is no. I'll be telling more about the various ways you can improve on whatever you see here, but it's very useful for anyone who wants a quick glimpse and maybe you're very busy in a rush. This is going to be a quick snapshot for you. For a second opinion, it's not the fact. But we'll talk about the rest of the options in the later part of the video. We do testing too for Lightcones and varying Lightcones. So first things first, I'm running a speed Hanya build with about 124 energy restoration rate. So some of you who are quicker will realize that 19% comes from the link rope and 5% comes probably from a set bonus as well. Quickly, do you need 185 speed on Hanya? This is unbuffed Hanya. I'm not running any food buff or any team member that buff speed, and we're not in the middle of the battle. So 185 is pretty decent, high enough speed. I have a plus 75 here. Do you need this much speed on her? The answer is it's nice to have, but not compulsory. Higher speed generally is good for her because she has very high burst cost, 140. The more she acts means that she not only generates more skill points for the team, it also helps refund her energy cost relative to how long this buff lasts on her teammates. So it lasts even longer if you think about it. Like if you use this on your teammate is not as fast. You can eventually even end up buffing multiple teammates with this single target buff, of course. So that is why I run her very fast, and not only that, you also have a bit of speed that she scales off with. Not very significant, because if you're talking about 165 versus 185, which you are min-maxing the minimum, the whatever is left of the speed, you're really only getting 4-5 speed buffed onto the target, which is not very significant if you're talking about the buff. But for her herself, you make her a much more skill point positive character, because if you inflict the burden on the enemy, note that when you cast a new burden, the target will then shift over to that particular target, so you can't cast burden on everyone, which is very sad. It would be very nice too, but which means she can basically attack more, and it doesn't lower any of your utility or whatsoever, generating even more skill points for your team. Some of people are saying, what if there's a 5-star skill point haver? She's a 4-star. I would consider her. Any free play can get her eventually, as long as you either pull on the limited banner with her, or maybe get lucky with standard pulls once she's added to the pull tool. Anyone basically can get this character as a 4-star and not be super detrimental. So that's why not too much, not too expensive, and so far that is the build that we have. What am I running for Lightcones? Now there are various reasons I'm running this Lightcone. I'll share with you in the Lightcone section, but I'm running Dance. I think other options that I ran is Mashing Cocks, which I'll talk about later on in the Lightcone section as well. And for Relics, these are my gear. I'm running a 4-piece Messenger traversing hacker space. I think it's nice, the additional speed which is synergetic with a kit. You buff the whole team speed by one ally for one turn, which is just a nice additional buff. And Panacony Land of Dream is really for this 5% energy regeneration. The 10% damage increase is nice to have, but I treat this as a sprightly Von Wack. If I'm playing her on the same team physical team, then yeah, sure, good bonus. But other than that, it's sprightly Von Wack to me. I just want a bit more energy restoration, also because I have better gear. But anyway, that's my build so far. I have a E6 Hanya, but I'll go into details in a little bit. First things first, let's talk about Relics and the main stats to focus on. So I'm not going to talk about these two. Let's talk about the boots as well as here. What I'm looking on, what I'm using is a crit rate, but I don't think crit rate maybe is very good. You could consider putting on effect hit rate. For example, if you wanted to land more of your burden more reliably, especially if the enemy has much higher effect rest. So that is the first thing that I think I would change from this, and this is where we're talking about main stats already. Next, speed I think is very solid for the boots, very good because it's synergetic with her overall kit. You don't really need attack percentage, HP, defense for her. She doesn't scale super well with that. Her ultimate doesn't do damage as well. Her skill does, but it's single target a little bit, just poking the enemy kind of thing. So I don't think she scales very well with offensive stats. In fact, crit rate wouldn't be the ideal. She doesn't deal too much damage. I would much rather play her effect hit rate on this one instead, or maybe more sustaining things like HP, defense for the body as well. So that's something that I would change just for any of you who are watching past the first TLDR segment and wanting to know more details on variations. So for Planisphere, I'm running personally a HP percentage. I like it quite a bit. You can run defense, HP, physical damage bonus is okay also, but for the reasons mentioned, I think she likely will be better with more defensive stats, so she's able to tank a few more hits unlike Tingyun, which is really what differentiates this character from a character like Tingyun, who is a lot squishier because she generally likes to build a lot of attack. I don't have her build, she's like totally naked. With clothes on of course, but because she likes to build so much attack, her HP is very squishy, and if she's always getting hit, a lot of you realize that she dies very often. Hanya is not really like that, because she can stack HP percentage without decreasing utility in her overall kit, which is very nice, especially if like your Harmony characters always getting targeted. So that is why I'm running a HP percentage, and I think it's quite good too. For the Link Rope, really, I think energy regeneration rate is like the best out of all of them. Break effect is like quite concentrated. I don't think it's very niche. I don't think you want to play break effect. In energy regeneration is super important because she has 140 burst cost. So lowering that requirement down effectively by like 20% is very massive for a high burst cost character. That's why I run the Link Rope energy regeneration rate. So now, since we're on topic about relics, and I'm trying to do this like as unscripted as I can, so if any of you are feeling like, why is EOD a bit less fluent as normal? That is of course because I'm trying to run it without a script. I'm training for my live streams. Any of you who attended the recent one, the MOC challenge, which is up on the channel also, good training for that, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm trying to be a better impromptu live kind of talker. So now let's talk about like the main stat, or like the sets that we can run. Panacony Land of Dreams I think is good. You give 5% energy regeneration rate. Added bonus, you can have like physical buff on the same team, which is nice. It's definitely a lot better than Sprightly Von Weck, which does the exact same here. And this action advances like once, which disappears after the first one. So unless you're wiping everyone out in the first instance, Sprightly Von Weck declines over time, unlike Panacony Land of Dreams. And she also doesn't really do too much with the extra advance, because she scales up with speed. If this was like speed plus 100, for example, yeah, I think it might be possible. But yeah, I prefer Panacony over this one for that reason. But I think the energy regeneration both works fine. Which substats you have probably are better if you're not like focusing on physical teams. So that is that. The next one that you can consider is Broken Kill, which gives effect rest 10% and also crit damage to the whole team. This one is if you are playing in very high pressure enemy lineups where they are like controlling you, adding a lot of like debuffs onto you, or maybe you're not running a character with cleanse. Definitely effect rest will benefit her, but I would say for a supportive role, don't need to min-max and like build your gear specifically to tackle all content. Just go with a generic build that works well. It's much more efficient because you don't have to keep switching your gear around, don't need to think so much. This is also very good, of course, I'm not saying it's bad, but 5% energy restoration rate I think slightly outperforms, and she also can be played into DOT teams because this damage increase is universal. It doesn't only apply to crit damage, whereas this one means that she can't really be played well into teams, for example like Kafka teams, because they don't really work much with crit damage. But one thing for sure is she definitely can hit this 30% effect rest, since she doesn't need to build into offensive stats that much. So Broken Kill is not impossible to hit for a Harmony character like her. For a character like Tingyun, maybe it's a bit tougher, especially since she likes energy restoration and also she wants this effect rest. But we'll talk about her energy restoration in a little bit. But now, let's talk about the other stuff that is available. Other than like these ones and these ones here, of course, I think the one that is the other option would be this one here, Fleet of the Ageless. So Fleet of the Ageless is decent as well because it gives her a bit more chunkiness, which we talked about why chunky is not too bad on her, which helps improve her survivability. And when her speed is 120 or higher, this is practically like almost everyone will have 120 or higher Hanyas. Everyone gets an 8% attack bonus, which is nice if you're trying to like buff the team Harmony stuff. So those are the to summarize, like this, I think probably my favorite. This is okay too. This is also okay, depending on really what you have good substats for. In this case, I think that you need to care about the energy regeneration rate. If you have threshold amounts, you can probably just switch to like Fleet of Ageless or Broken Kill. You probably don't care too much. That is for the 2-piece. And now for the 4-piece. My personal choice, Messenger Traversing Hackerspace. You give 6% speed. When you use out, you buff the entire team, similar to what she does, like her whole idea. You use it out on one character, but at least everyone else kind of gets like 12% speed. That teammate that you buff gets even more speed too. So you are giving a lot of buffing to the team and to one teammate. I like this one a lot, especially the 2-piece here. It gives you 6 speed. She doesn't really benefit from the 2-piece of any other set, which is why completing Messenger Traversing Hackerspace is pretty decent in my opinion. Other options that you can run will probably... Where is that one? I mean, this is okay. Like, you use your out, you get action advance a little bit more. She has some action advance in her kit, but I don't think it's like super good. She doesn't scale off with attack percentage, so this one is like an inferior version of Messenger Traversing Hackerspace. That's why I don't really care too much about that. Other options are like Guard of Wuthering Snow, but it's very niche because you don't expect a Harmony character to get hit. But I guess if you're running like a 2-piece, you don't want to complete your set because you can't really find the 4-piece and it's used for other characters. Then I guess this 12% out is not very important because her rotations are usually on average like 3 to 4 turns, 1 out. Which means you have only a 33% uptime on this speed buff, which is not a lot. It's like in essence, on average, it's like a 3-4% speed buff for your whole team on average, if you think about that. So those are my thoughts for the relic sets. Now let's talk a little bit about the next thing, which is going to be Lightcones. Now Lightcones is a bit trickier and it really depends on what you have in your roster. Now I'm going to give you several situations. For the most part, people that are looking to optimize for this character should run energy restoration. Now let's go through a very simple rotation for that fact. So this is my Hanya here with, let me just, for the sake of demonstration, I'm going to just switch this out to a non-energy regeneration set. So I'm going to switch this to attack percentage. Of course, energy restoration works better, but she has 100 energy regen. And let's just go through like very quickly the rotations here. I am going to regen this. And let's go and test it out with this boss right here. Lovely design. Hanya, not the boss. So let's get into the testing. So she out. I'm going to just turn off this auto. I didn't mean to auto. So she presses E once, and for those of you who don't know, she also gains energy in several ways. Let me just find that ability so it's easier to see. I believe it's the talent. So when burden skill point recovery is triggered, this character regenerates 2 energy. So that is like some things to note. She does gain energy from like other ways other than basic attack, skill also. So that's something that you want to consider. So for example, if I smack with Zila here, so she's taking a bit of damage. When you take damage, you also have like a bit more regen, so that is important to know. And of course, you can see the counter over here. I am not going to reset it, or maybe I should just reset it just for demonstration purposes. So hit. So I want to, because obviously it's not ideal, but I just want to see like the energy regen, what's her rotation like. So she has taken like 2 turns so far. So smack, she goes again. Okay, I'm just gonna out. Let's out this. I'm supposed to out the boss, but I'm scared it dies and it's gonna make this whole entire clip wasted. So that's why I'm not outing the boss. And yep, let's use one more E. Okay, and normally like in a full comp, you will probably smack the boss a few more times to like proc more skill points. And as you can see in a 3-turn rotation, she has an out if she gets hit like twice. If you rewind the video, you will realize that she gets hit twice. What this means, I can just retreat very simply, and I'm going to now switch her build. Instead of using this 0% that we saw here, like 100% base energy, what I'm going to do now is go into this relic screen and switch this one out back for this energy restoration rate. So anyone can get this, you don't have to be a whale, anyone can basically get this, you don't have to run any significant stuff. So with this, I have 124.4%, and we will see how this makes a difference in terms of her rotations. Now I'm going to just put in a character like Mark 7 here because I do not want her to get smacked at all. So we can see like, regardless of what, she's able to get some energy restoration up. And I think this is going to be nice to make it like much more easier to see her energy restoration requirements, especially if she doesn't get hit. So first things first, I am just going to pump Zila up. Gotta love those animations. So first turn, let's do one skill. And smack. Smack. Okay, please hit much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, please hit much. Thank you. Just don't mess up my test. So one more smack. So she has like, I think she got 2 procs of the ability, so there's like 4 energy more. But anyway, I'm going to use another E real quick. I'm going to put a shield out on her so that she draws the aggro consistently. Smack. And I'm going to use another E. She moves so fast, right? Like, just these monsters haven't even moved and she already moved twice. So good, she didn't like absorb anything. So as you can see right now, with a 3-turn rotation, she doesn't have enough if she doesn't get hit. We did proc it like I think like 2-3 times this effect, and it's still not enough. As you can see here in the ability, this regen, she has 125 out of 140. What this means is if you don't get hit, assuming you don't get hit at all, and maybe you proc the effect a few times, you need to have a little bit more. And there are 2 ways of doing it which affects her Lightcone procking. But of course, let me first demonstrate that I can do a 3-turn rotation just with a 3-star Lightcone here. And let's switch to this mashing cogs here, which I think will be very useful for any free-to-play to think, because you all definitely have this Lightcone, is whether you leveled it or not. And let's get into the demonstration here. Okay, smack, exactly the same thing right now. And let me know in the comments below if you prefer like this like more unscripted version of me just doing testing as if it's like a live stream. I'm trying to practice myself a bit more. Leave me a comment if you guys hate it, and I'll stop doing it from now on. But if you don't mind it and you think that it's more natural, it sounds more authentic, do let me know as well. I just want more feedback. It's very, very new. I'm still very new in this. So I'm shielding up March 7, doing exactly the same. March 7 is getting hit, which is what I need. Okay, now second turn, I am going to do this. This thing hasn't procced yet because I don't think I attacked twice. So, and she moves again. This is the third turn. So you see, only with mashing cogs and like whatever we have, you can see that she has a 3-turn rotation that she gets. Assuming of course she doesn't get hit, but in most of the time, usually you like get hit once or something like that, and you'll probably proc it a lot more than I'm procking it too, because you have 4 members on the team. I'm only running like 3, and previously the demo's only 2. But that's very, very useful. Why? Because now it tells us exactly what we need from this data bank here. So what that means is if you care a lot about 3-turn rotations and optimal rotations, the 2 Lightcones that will benefit you the most will be mashing cogs for free plays, because you get this 8 energy, and when you attack or get hit, you gain an additional 8 energy, which is very, very good amounts of refund for reliable 3-turn out. With her Eidolons, her uptime is 100% because her ultimate buffs that target for 3 turns if you have a Eidolon, which we'll talk about in like the Eidolon section. But anyways, the other Lightcone, of course, some of you rolling eyes, if you have this, then of course this is good. Everyone knows this is a very good one, but it's because it gives you energy regeneration of 10%, which will help you hit the threshold. But yeah, enough talk about that. If you have this, it's good. It's probably one of the better ones. But likely, if you have Bronya, you'll be using it on her. So mashing cogs is an alternative if you want to hit the threshold. The other one that any of you can consider is Memories of the Past. This 4 energy here is likely also going to be very, very solid as well. You just need that a little bit of extra. Remember, we were at 125 out of 140 at the previous run without mashing cogs. This likely will pass you the threshold because it's when you attacks. At least you get this back. 3 turns, that's 12. So you definitely will be much closer there, if not hitting it already. And that's at Super Imposition 1. So if you of course have it at Super Imposition 5, definitely you will hit that threshold. You only needed like 15 energy more. Memories of the Past is a good consideration for any of you who care about optimal rotations. Now, I'm using the word optimal rotations a lot, essentially, but the true fact is, do you really care so much about ultimate? What makes this character good is actually her skill, which is very, very attractive, which is why I think you may want to deviate away from the energy recharge builds that some people might be overly focusing on. Her ult is nice, but it's not very good. Let's just go into her kit real quick. If you look at it, what is it essentially? You buff maybe 40 speed, you buff maybe 60% attack, which is decent, but I wouldn't say it's like game breaking. This thing, in my opinion, is just complementary to the overall kit that she gets. Her real true value comes from her skill, as well as the damage buff from her talent passive, which means focusing on optimal rotations and neglecting other buffing abilities. For example, would you rather 1 turn better rotation? Sometimes you can even do a 3 turn if you get hit enough. Or would you much rather, for example, giving your whole team a better buff? Like an example would be 1 turn better rotation, or giving your whole team a 24% damage buff for physical damage. I think I would likely prefer the 24% physical damage over that guaranteed 3 turn rotation. That's my personal bias. Of course, everyone has different opinions. And another thing is, would you rather that 1 turn extra bonus of 1 target being buffed, or maybe have 1 turn downtime and instead your whole team gets advanced by 24%, which is a very good value. compared to, for example, one character. So 16% at Super Imposition 1, of course. That is also an open-ended question. I do not have an answer because every team will likely be different. Some team comps will have more hyper carry. If your DPS has 100% uptime, is better. But here's where I think that Lightcones like Dance, as well as Planetary Rendezvous likely still will outperform. And I'm not done yet because there's so many different ways you can build Harmony characters, and there's no one true best way, especially with a character that's as versatile as Hanya. Past and future, it has a similar effect to probably, like, out of all of them, the most meh out of all the 4 and 5 stars in my opinion. You buff using the skill. Next character that takes action has a slight damage increase, which is nice, but is of course wearing out every time you use a skill. You won't want to use her skill too often, especially if she's moving very, very fast, because you'd rather just basic attack and give your team more skills or proc that energy refund, which is why I don't think this is like super synergetic with Hanya, but still okay if you don't have a choice. Carve the Moon, Weave the Cloud, this is the Battle Pass Lightcone. I think this is pretty solid. It gives a random buff, granted it's like random RNG, but you get attack 10%, you get crit damage 12%, or you get energy restoration rate 6%. And I think this 6% may tip the balance for her also to have a 3-turn rotation. Of course, it's like an RNG thing, but it's still very good if you are a Battle Pass buyer. I think this is pretty decent too. So we talk about all the different Lightcones. Chorus is Copium. I will much rather, if you have the result to like 3 stars and like maybe these 2, I likely will choose just Mashing Cogs over the rest. Maybe you don't have any of these over here, these 3, then you don't have to think so much. If you have any of these 4 up here, like But the Battle Isn't Over, Memory of the Past, Planetary Rendezvous, Dance, then I think these will likely be a bit more interesting because they give also 4-star stats. Mashing Cogs is like 3-star stats. But if you have enough HP percentage for a gear, she shouldn't die, unlike like characters like Tingyun, who is super squishy with a 3-star Lightcone. So, and if you're finding value in this video so far, give me a like, subscribe for more of such future content. This is a very new format. But now let's talk about this beautiful artwork here of her Eidolons, and I'll tell you like which one of my opinions are critical ones. Let's start off with the one that I keep talking about, and that is 4 Truths Eidolon 4. This, in my opinion, is probably her best Eidolon. Maybe I'm biased, I don't know, but 100% uptime if you have 3-turn rotation, that's pretty something, especially for a Harmony character to have 100% uptime on the character. And note that I'm talking about 100% uptime, assuming that the character moves as fast as Hanya. Now, many times a character like Hanya, especially if you have her at this speed of 185, will let most other characters in the game, maybe except for Zealer, maybe Susang, or some other speed characters, but by and large, most people, she's gonna let the characters very, very often, especially because she also has like a cell speed buff. I think she has like a cell speed buff of 20% somewhere. Yeah, so after using skill, this character's speed increased by 20%, so she's very likely gonna let enemies or your own teammates. So that is something that is worth mentioning, but still, 100% uptime, assuming same speed, is very, very good. And even if you move even faster, then you can choose to like out one other character. So you have not only 100 uptime, but maybe you have one other character that's also semi-buffed in that sense. So that is my opinion of these 4 truths here. Other than that, I think 6 Reverence is, for E6, is nice, is universal, is what she's good at because you boost the additional damage of Burden, but it's not like E6 game breaking or anything, it's just like additional damage, very strong, very solid. But E4, I think it's pretty so solid, more solid than that. 2 Views, this speed increase is nice to have. 20% speed is of course always good, but also again not game breaking if you have her moving fast. But this 20% speed is very, very quick, I must admit. Gives her a lot more speed to pass that 200 threshold. Of course, last but not least, let's talk about One Heart. When an ally with Hanya's ultimate effect defeats an enemy, Hanya's action is advanced by 15%, can only be triggered 1 time per turn. The question I have is, whose turn does this proc on? I think that's the biggest question, and let's go and test it real quick. Because if I have a character like Zealer who is like super fast, does it mean I just keep proccing this effect? And for that, let's go to some squishy mob real quick. So can I proc it like many times, or is it 1 turn based on Hanya's turn orders? So I am removing Mark 7 here, and I am starting. I'm gonna play this on like 1 time speed because I don't want to see too much complexity. So let's do this. I have to use her out, right? Because if not, she won't get the action advance. So I'll just buff her. Oh my gosh, it's so slow. Okay, and then I'm going to press E here and proc it on this guy. Okay, so if I kill both of them, she should get advanced even faster, right? So let's kill this one first. So she bumps up and I go again. If I kill this guy, does she like go up even faster? Let's like look at this number here for any of you who are watching. This 28. So nope, it only goes once. I guess it's per Hanya's turn. So that is good. We learned that. Wasted some credit or some energy there, but it's okay. It's for the testing purposes. So E1 I think is also pretty decent. It gives good amounts of speed for her. The faster she moves, the more this can chalk up as well. Sadly, it doesn't like combo together with Zila. It's not each target she hits, then Hanya just keeps getting a buff. But overall, 4 Truths probably the best of all of them in my opinion for the massive uptime increase, which makes her less reliant on her ults. For Tracers, I personally think basic attack is not very important. She doesn't deal too much damage, that's why I left it at 3 out of 7. I also don't think skill is like super important, because if you see over here, the only thing that increases with skill is actually the damage she does. If I don't give a shit about the damage that she does, like I leave this blank, she's still doing a lot of utility because I can afford more for this ultimate ability, which gives a lot more speed bonus, attack bonus, and I can do a lot more for this like talent ability, which gives really the damage increase that she gets. 31%, 30% at 10 out of 10 for most of you who don't have Eidolons. That's very huge. With her E6, it's like massive. It's like 40+% already. So yeah, that's my opinion of how to build this character. Last but not least, some of you might notice that I'm having her at like 75 out of 80. And the reason for that actually is because her Tracers here, you want this 4 speed boost, but you don't really care too much about the 8% attack, which is why I think it's optimal to start at 75 for this character. You don't really need the additional stats that you get. Of course, that is my personal opinion. And if you're looking for her team comps, I talked about it in another video. And also, how does this character actually stand unique compared to a lot of the other Harmony characters like Tingyun as well as Bronya? Where does Hanya actually shine? Check out these other videos right here and like and subscribe for more such future videos. Thank you so much for watching. See you next video.